theory and the Virginia governor's election. To repeat, critical race theory and Virginia governor's election. Let's get right into the show! I'm Tim Fields. This is Saturday's Corner. Today we're going to talk about critical race theory and the Virginia governor's election. And we're going to talk about how CRT played a critical role there in the Virginia governor's election. It's been on CRT. Political joke. Now let's start. But first, to understand critical race theory, we have to understand the definition of it. Critical race theory, according to Wikipedia, is a body of legal scholarship and an academic movement of United States civil rights scholars and activists who seek to critically examine the intersection of race and United States law to challenge mainstream American liberal approaches to racial justice. CRT examines social, cultural, and legal issues primarily as they relate to race and racism in the United States. Now, before I go on, I thought I'd tell you that we are 5 more subscribers away from 30. Please, get me there. I've downloaded games. I may do an Isaiah's Corner that features a bit of gameplay. I really hope that can go well. Let's get back to this. Critical race theory has been a scary thing for America's political majority. Minority now. Confused Republicans who never found out what a dictionary or internet is. This is what the problem is. They claim critical race theory is a bad thing. It's not. Again, it examines race, the intersection of race and U.S. law to challenge American liberal approaches to racial justice. So this could possibly change how we judge racially motivated court cases, whether they be a judiciary court, a Supreme Court, or a regular district court. Critical race theory could really play a role in molding that thing for the better for the future. Now, sadly, just like this, news outlets like Fox News, which really sucks, think that they can lie about the situation or put their own opinion into it. You can do that. Put your opinion into it, but don't lie. If you lie, it won't make the situation any better. Just take a look at Justice Janine. Yes, I do a buttload of crap every day, Piero. Just lies about the immigration border, talks about how Chinese drugs are making the U.S. worse. Think about it. China had to deal with opium from the 1900s. You don't think they were going to say, you know what? China, I take AP World History, and we're learning that China took the Trump way. You only come into China if you offer us any good thing. If you offer us bad things, no. Make China great again. Now, open-mindedness about CRT is really the whole problem with critical race theory in a whole. By that, I mean there are many people who think critical race theory is a bad thing, that it will influence their kids to be racist. That would not be the entire thing to do it. And I know I'm using my old script, but it's because I have this, or and that's really my whole take on CRT. Now, I'm gonna tell you how it took place in the Virginia election. We had entire thing about lots of stuff happening with critical race theory in the Virginia governor's election. People think it encouraged racism, and people like Glenn Youngkin think that CRT would be a bad thing in schools, and they won't have to, and they will not teach it. Guess what? Your kids are going to be very more concerned, because we grew up in a generation where Gen Zs, Millennials, Gen Xs, and maybe any generation wants to talk about race. Black Lives Matter movement is still out there, and that's a very good movement. Now, yes, there have been some instances where they did have violent people, but guess what? They weren't representing what the Black Lives Matter protests were. They were peaceful protesting by people who wanted to stand up for police brutality to end. Started in 2014 with Eric Gardner, but it really gained steam with the Freddie Brown thing. Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, and of course, George Floyd. And right here in DC with Deon K and the guy shot in the car while he was asleep. In Virginia, however, CRT won't be taught in schools now. Republicans swept that election, but even then, like, I had some uncertainties about the election, and my uncertainties came to fruition. Apparently, the governor's son tried to vote 2 times. That should have warranted political recounting in the system. Because, if you think about it, Youngkin targeted suburban areas in Virginia. Now, I don't know about suburban areas, because I just don't want to go there. But suburban areas really can carry a vote. They can swing the state to Republican or Democrat. Heck, an independent could be doing it, and they could win most of the vote. And it just sucked. It really was sucked, okay? But let's get back to it. Virginia governor's election definitely will be a historic one because they had a dark horse candidate, Glenn Youngkin, coming out of nowhere and do good. At first, it looked like McAuliffe was going to have an easy win. But you know what? You leaned on Trump a bit. A lot, my friend. You leaned on Trump a bit more than you thought you should. Now, Trump is one of the worst presidents in the world. I'd say Miller Fillmore is better than him by comparison. And Fillmore had, like, one of the worst administrations in the world. And besides raids and... But... let's be honest. It takes a lot to ensure. It takes a lot to think. It takes a lot for a former president who is really not in glory anymore, but in glory by certain Republicans, to just keep putting out false information constantly. Like, why? I just don't understand it. And honestly, I have nothing else prepared, but I'm going to rant about the Virginia governor election. Like, honestly, the obligatory hatred, the critical race theory, is really outstanding. You hate something that could influence your children's aspect on race and culture as is. Now, the quote from my older and episode 12 of Isaiah's Corner: many people think it encourages racism. Bigoted minds and thoughts taught to kids by their parents would increase the chance of a bigoted child, a racist child, or an ethically biased kid. That's true. And really, it's become annoying because Fox News still wants to claim that it's a bad thing. Critical race theory will not be a bad thing. It's going to give you insight into how the U.S. law system and race counteract each other in the court of law. If you realize, black people get sentenced to jail or get hefty fines for sometimes the smallest things in the world. A white person can get a slap on the wrist or a smaller treatment compared to how an African American or a person of color would be treated in court. Now, CRT was adopted as a campaign by Glenn Youngkin. Fox News talked about it when Glenn Youngkin was running. That first fact from my episode 12 still stands true to this day. Republicans can use CRT as a way to influence people who are Democratic or independent to come over to their side by saying that they won't let you have your opinion on it in schools. And at this point, a parent should not be the person to tell what happens in a school. That should never happen. A parent's job is to be there to help their kid understand what they're learning, not to influence the curriculum. Because if you say that you don't want the curriculum to focus on CRT or, let's just say, sex ed, then maybe you're going to be limiting your child's learning abilities. Like, I took sex ed one year. I really didn't like it. I watched the retro report and I could agree. I do think that the abstinence thing would have worked as well at that time, but there were many other things that came about which caused that curriculum for sex ed to change. You had HIV coming about, herpes, rampant drug use, which led to the increase of HIV and AIDS cases. All this stuff takes place when you add it up together. Like, your phone contains lots of information. Think about how much a textbook could change in a blink of an eye just because of what happens. Now, even in modern history, we can understand that stuff like this really happens for the wrong reasons. There is nothing that you can explain or show that can make me think that this election in Virginia and critical race theory were one of the most important things to happen in Virginia in a long time. Critical race theory really, really, really took over the power vacuum in shifting people's thoughts or political parties. And honestly, I'm really sad about what happened in Virginia. I'm sad that critical race theory is not going to get its just due by being implemented into an American curriculum, which really thrives off of a European point of view on how history works. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week, and we'll get into a bit more. We're gonna get into something that really is changing about me. So we're gonna get into a updated thing. I will get into a popular thing going on right now, which is COVID vaccinations. Yet again, we're gonna get into a COVID vaccine thing. That's it. We may have some gaming clips. We may try to poncho this thing up a bit. A bit of my videos with gaming and stuff. I'll use game tools. I'll send it to my dad. He can email it to me. I'll download it to my computer, start editing with the gaming videos, put that in between it. And that'll really be how it can work. I really want it to work like that. I really love this series, and we're going to keep it up. Now, thank you guys for understanding that I had to take a mental break. I really did burn out, and I'm happy that I'm back here doing what I love to do. But to reiterate, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Hit the like button down below, comment any more ideas, and also subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram at IsaiahFields756. I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.